They gave me this weird horse thing at the Odyssey screening I went to last night. I don't really know what it does or what it's for, but what I do know is I brought it home and a bunch of tiny people started running around my house. I don't get it. Hello everybody, Hunter V. Norris here, and today I'm going to be giving you my review of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey that I saw in IMAX 70mm. Yeah! The Odyssey is Christopher Nolan's adaptation of Homer's classic Greek poem that basically laid the foundation for all the stories that we've been experiencing for the past 2.5 millennia. I'm sure you all remember how it went when you read it back in high school, but if you need a refresher, The Odyssey is about Odysseus, who, after the Trojan War, begins a perilous trek home where he encounters all sorts of fantastical creatures and other events that put him and his crew in jeopardy. Meanwhile, at home, his wife Penelope is being courted by all sorts of various suitors who believe Odysseus is never going to come home. This version of The Odyssey is written and directed by Christopher Nolan, and it is definitely the version of The Odyssey only he could make. It's definitely an epic film, definitely a mythological film, but a lot of the mythological elements are kind of stripped down, and as you expect from a Christopher Nolan movie, it's about as grounded as you can get. Therefore, we never see the gods in physical forms played by actors like you would normally see in movies centering around Greek mythology. Instead, the gods are all represented in a metaphysical sense through nature, like thunderstorms or rough waters in the sea, you know, courtesy of Zeus or Poseidon, but we never actually see the gods personified. And actually, I think that works better for the story because it allows us to perceive these Greek gods how the Greek people perceived them thousands of years ago, believing they were in control of everything. And trust me, the gods are angry in this movie, and that doesn't mean that there aren't still some fantastical elements. You get stuff like the Cyclops, which is brought to life with amazing practical effects and with a performance by Bill Irwin. And while I don't ever expect Christopher Nolan to make a full-on horror movie, if that's something that you wanted from him, there are two significant scenes in this movie that will creep you out and make your skin crawl for sure. The first half is a little clunky as it has a lot of exposition to set the scene, and it's a little repetitive seeing Odysseus and his men go from island to island just to be run off by something in kind of a comedy of errors. And I think that just kind of stems from the fact that the Odyssey is such an old story, and that old story structure doesn't quite lend itself to a cinematic format. So it was repetitive, and I was feeling that, but at the same time, the production design and everything about the movie is just so immaculate and draws you in. When you're seeing real actors with real extras surrounding them on a real boat, on a real ocean with real jets of water blasting them off and everything like that, you know, it doesn't get better than that. Where so many fantasy movies feel fake and artificial, The Odyssey feels 100% real the entire time. The entire cast is terrific, but Matt Damon especially is a great leading man as Odysseus. He's got the slyness and the swagger that Odysseus has whenever he's leading his men throughout these various dangerous escapades, like when they're fighting the Cyclops, but he also has this really deep sense of regret and longing because he really just wants to get home to his wife and son, who he hasn't seen in 20 years. Near the end, he gets to deliver a heart-wrenching monologue that displays some of Matt Damon's finest acting of his career. Anne Hathaway and Tom Holland are also great as Odysseus' wife Penelope and his son Telemachus. Anne Hathaway's performance is very similar to Damon's, where she also has this deep sense of regret and longing behind her eyes, just waiting for her husband to come home, as all these various sleazy suitors try to compete for her marriage. One of them's played by Robert Pattinson, who, come on, it's Robert Pattinson. He's going to be excellent, but he's so good at playing just a sniveling, terrible bad guy that you love to hate. Tom Holland also gets to flex his acting chops, showing that he is far more than just Spider-Man. He is really good in this. There is a large supporting cast consisting of so many different movie stars and actors you've seen in so many different things, but the real standouts were John Leguizamo, Elliot Page, and Samantha Morton. They each get fantastic scenes where the whole movie kind of centers around them, really great monologues where they're really pouring their heart into the material. It's just a great supporting cast from everybody. You know, Zendaya, John Bernthal, they kind of show up, they do their thing. They don't get as much to work with in that department, but this is a great cast and everybody is game and they really immerse you into the setting. The other thing that immerses you into the setting is the fantastic production design, art direction, the costumes, and the cinematography from Hoyte van Hoytema. That's all in IMAX 70mm. Yes, every single frame. This is the first feature film shot entirely with IMAX cameras and the first to be projected entirely in IMAX 70mm. Yes, no switching aspect ratios here. All 3 hours of the Odyssey are in full 1:43 aspect ratio. It's absolutely glorious, so if you can, make sure you get out to an IMAX 70mm theater. Shout out to Harkins Arizona Mills, which has the only legitimately full-size IMAX screen that is capable of projecting these 70 70mm IMAX movies. You want to go see this movie? You got to go see it there or anywhere else you can find it in IMAX 70mm. As glorious as it was to take in that entire 3-hour movie in that gigantic, beautiful IMAX aspect ratio, Hoyte van Hoytema cinematography, it is fantastic, but it doesn't quite reach the levels of his previous films with Nolan like Interstellar, Dunkirk, or Oppenheimer. This is still one gorgeous movie. I especially loved how the interior scenes looked, utilizing a lot of natural lighting to give the scenes a really warm glow. I will say though, I do think Nolan and Hoyte van Hoytema should get a new focus puller, because during some of the dialogue scenes with more than one character, things were getting kind of blurry here and there. But in a way, shooting a film like this entirely with IMAX cameras is kind of experimental, so I'll give them some leeway here as they iron out the kinks for their next project that's also hopefully shot entirely with IMAX cameras. The score by Ludwig Göransson is just as unique as the scores he composed for Nolan's past films Oppenheimer and Tenet. It's not exactly the music you'd expect for a big sword and sandals epic like this. You know, you're kind of imagining like a big orchestra with brass sections and all that. Instead, Göransson went all the way back to the Bronze Age to utilize instruments from that era while still utilizing the electronic music that he was known for. It's a great combination and gives the Odyssey a very distinct vibe that separates it from other movies like this. And instead of feeling like grand and epic, it's like kind of creepy and like there's something sinister on the horizon. So overall, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is a fantastic movie. There are some Nolanisms here and there that kind of drag things down, particularly his weird editing that editor Jennifer Lame tries her best to wrangle together. But overall, it's Christopher Nolan. You kind of know what you're going to get going into his movies. And this is the Odyssey that only Christopher Nolan can make, and you can't imagine it turning out really any other way. While it does take plenty of liberties like any adaptation does, I do feel like the core ethos of Homer's story is left intact with Odysseus' journey here. And if you want a big, epic, classical feeling sword and sandals movie that we really don't get anymore, that's put together with amazing practical detail, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, it's exactly what you expect. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. So right now my rating is sitting at an 8.5 out of 10. The Odyssey doesn't quite reach the heights of Christopher Nolan's masterpieces like The Dark Knight, Oppenheimer, or Interstellar, but it's definitely a worthy effort. And you gotta check it out in IMAX 70mm, or just go see it in any theater because it is epic. And if you'd like to read my full analysis on the movie, go to azfamily.com and click on the Entertainment and Movie Reviews tab and go to my Odyssey review. Did you see The Odyssey yet? What did you think of it? What was your favorite part? Got any questions for me? Just leave them down in the comments below. I'm Hunter V. Norris. See you next time.